In a world where people are constantly surrounded by noise, expectations, and comparisons, it becomes easy to forget one simple truth: you are enough on your own. From a young age, individuals are taught to seek approval. Approval from family, friends, society, and even strangers. Happiness is often linked with being accepted, loved, noticed, and praised. Because of this, many people grow up believing that their worth depends on others. When someone is appreciated, they feel valuable. When they are ignored, they feel empty. This creates a cycle where self-worth is controlled by external reactions. But reality is different. Every person is born with inherent value. Not because of achievements, not because of appearance, not because of relationships, but simply because they exist. Being alone is often misunderstood. It is seen as loneliness, weakness, or lack. But being alone can also be a powerful state of self-connection. It is a space where a person can understand their thoughts, their emotions, and their true identity without outside influence. Many people fear being alone because it forces them to face themselves, their insecurities, their past, their doubts. So they fill their lives with distractions to avoid silence. But within that silence lies clarity. When a person learns to be comfortable alone, they begin to build a strong relationship with themselves. They stop depending on others for constant validation. They stop feeling incomplete without company. This does not mean they reject relationships or isolate themselves. It means they no longer rely on others to feel whole. They become emotionally independent. This mindset creates strength, confidence, and inner peace. A person who is happy with themselves can walk through life with stability. They can form healthier relationships. They can handle challenges with resilience. They can make decisions based on their true values rather than fear of judgment. This journey is not about becoming perfect. It is about accepting imperfections while continuing to grow. It is about understanding that you do not need to become someone else to be worthy. You already are. This writing explores the idea that being alone is not something to fear. It is something to understand and embrace. Because when you learn to be happy with yourself, you unlock a kind of freedom that no external source can provide. Chapter 1. Understanding your own presence. Every human being begins their life in a state of pure existence. There is no comparison, no pressure, no expectation. A person simply lives, feels, and experiences. As time passes, the world starts shaping the way a person sees themselves. Family teaches certain values, society creates standards, and people begin to observe others. They look at how others treat them. They measure their worth based on reactions. If they are praised, they feel important. If they are ignored, they feel small. But this way of understanding yourself is unstable, because it depends on things that are always changing. Understanding your own presence means shifting your focus inward. It means realizing that your existence is not defined by how others see you. You are present in this world with your own thoughts, your own feelings, and your own perspective. That presence itself has value. Imagine a person sitting alone in a quiet place. There is no phone, no conversation, no distraction. At first, they may feel uncomfortable. Their mind may wander. They may feel the urge to escape the silence. But if they stay in that moment, something begins to change. They start noticing their thoughts more clearly. They become aware of their emotions. They begin to understand what they truly feel, rather than what they pretend to feel in front of others. This is the beginning of self-awareness. A young student once felt invisible in his class. He believed that because no one paid attention to him, he was not important. He tried to change himself to fit in, but nothing worked. One day he stopped trying to impress others. He started spending time alone, reading, learning, and reflecting. He discovered interests that no one had noticed before. Over time, he became confident in his own identity. The people around him did not change immediately, but his perception of himself changed completely. He no longer needed constant attention to feel valuable. Understanding your own presence is about recognizing that you exist beyond roles and labels. You are not just a student, a worker, a friend, or a family member. Those are parts of your life, but they are not your entire identity. At your core, you are a thinking, feeling, aware individual. When you begin to understand this, you stop chasing approval as your main source of confidence. You start building a connection with yourself. This connection allows you to stand strong even when no one is supporting you. It allows you to feel calm even in silence. Many people spend years trying to be seen by others, but very few take the time to truly see themselves. When you understand your own presence, you no longer feel lost in the absence of attention. You feel grounded because you know this does not mean you stop caring about others. It means you stop depending on them to define your worth. Your presence is enough, even in a silent room, even without recognition, even without applause, because your value does not begin with others, and it does not end with them. It begins within you, and it stays with you throughout your life. The illusion of external validation. As a person grows, they begin to notice how the world responds to them. A smile brings praise, good performance brings attention, and fitting in brings acceptance. Slowly, a pattern forms in the mind. If people approve of me, I am valuable. If they do not, I am not enough. This belief becomes deeply rooted. It influences choices, behavior, and even self-identity. External validation feels powerful because it gives immediate satisfaction. A compliment can lift your mood. Recognition can make you feel important. Approval can create a sense of belonging. But this feeling is temporary. The moment validation stops, the same person can feel empty again. This creates a cycle where a person constantly seeks more approval to feel complete. The problem is not appreciation itself. The problem is dependence on it. Imagine a young woman who shares her work online. At first, she enjoys creating, but over time, her focus shifts to how many people like her work. If the response is strong, she feels happy. If it is weak, she feels discouraged. Her happiness is no longer connected to her passion. It is controlled by the reaction of others. One day, she decides to stop checking responses for a while. She continues creating, but this time she focuses only on her own. Slowly, she reconnects with the joy of her work. She realizes that her value as a creator does not depend on numbers. It depends on her connection with what she creates. This is the moment she breaks free from the illusion. External validation is like a mirror held by others. It can show you an image, but it cannot define your true self. Mirrors can be unclear. They can be distorted. They can be taken away. If you rely only on mirrors, you will never truly know your own face. A man once worked in a company where he was constantly praised. He believed he was highly capable because everyone said so. Later, he moved to a different environment where he received little recognition. He began to doubt himself. His skills had not disappeared, but his confidence had, because his belief was built on external approval. After some time, he started focusing on his own growth instead of waiting for praise. He set personal standards. He evaluated his own progress. Gradually, his confidence returned. This time it was stronger, because it was not dependent on others. External validation can be motivating in small amounts, but it should not become the foundation of your self-worth. When you depend on it, you give others control over your emotions. They decide when you feel good and when you feel low. True stability comes from internal validation. This means recognizing your efforts even when no one notices. It means appreciating your progress even when no one praises it. It means believing in your worth even when no one expresses it. It makes you independent. A person who values themselves internally is not easily shaken by criticism or silence. They listen to feedback, but they do not lose themselves in it. They understand that opinions can change, but their core value remains constant. Breaking free from external validation is not easy. It requires awareness and practice. You have to notice when you are seeking approval unnecessarily. You have to remind yourself that your worth is not on display for others to decide. Over time, this mindset creates freedom. You begin to act based on what feels right to you. You begin to pursue goals that align with your inner self. You begin to live with authenticity rather than, and in that state, even when appreciation comes, it feels like a bonus, not a necessity, because you already know your value. And that value does not depend on applause. It exists quietly within you, steady and unchanging. Chapter 3, Loneliness versus Solitude. Many people, they believe that if they are by themselves, it automatically means something is missing. But loneliness and solitude are not the same. Loneliness is a feeling of emptiness. It creates a sense of disconnection. Even in a crowd, a person can feel lonely if they do not feel understood or connected. Solitude is different. It is a state of being alone without feeling incomplete. It brings calmness, clarity, and a sense of control over your own thoughts. The difference is not in the situation. The difference is in the mindset. A person who depends on others for emotional comfort will often feel lonely when alone, because their source of stability is outside. A person who has built a connection with themselves experiences solitude as something peaceful, because their stability comes from within. Imagine two individuals sitting in separate rooms. The first person keeps checking their phone, hoping someone will message them. They feel restless. They think about how others are spending time together. They feel left out. This is loneliness. The second person sits quietly reading, thinking, or simply observing their surroundings. They feel relaxed. They are not waiting for anything. They are comfortable in their own presence. This is solitude. A young man once moved away from his hometown for studies. In the beginning, he felt extremely lonely. He missed familiar faces and daily interactions. Every evening felt heavy. He tried to distract himself, but the feeling remained. One day he decided to change his approach. Instead of avoiding the feeling, he started understanding it. He began taking walks alone. He explored new places. He spent time writing his thoughts. Slowly something shifted. The same silence that once felt uncomfortable started feeling peaceful. He realized that he was not actually missing people all the time. He was missing the habit of being around them. As he became more comfortable with himself, his loneliness turned into solitude. Later, when he built new friendships, he did not feel desperate for connection. He felt balanced. This transformation is important. Loneliness often pushes people into unhealthy choices. They may stay in toxic relationships. They may tolerate disrespect. They may seek attention in ways that do not truly satisfy them, all because they are trying to escape the feeling of being alone. But when a person understands solitude, they stop running from themselves. They stop making decisions out of fear. They begin to choose relationships based on quality rather than necessity. Solitude allows you to think clearly. It gives you space to understand your emotions without interference. It helps you discover what truly matters to you. It is not about isolating yourself from the world. It is about building a strong foundation within yourself. A woman once spent years constantly surrounded by people. She believed she needed company to feel alive. But despite always being with others, she often felt empty. She decided to spend some time alone intentionally. At first, it was uncomfortable. She did not know how to sit with her own thoughts. But gradually, she learned to enjoy simple moments. Drinking tea in silence, reading a book, taking a walk without conversation. She began to feel a sense of peace she had never experienced before. Her loneliness did not disappear because people came into her life. It disappeared because she changed her relationship with herself. Understanding the difference between loneliness and solitude is a turning point. Loneliness says I need someone to feel complete. Solitude says I'm complete, and I can share my life with others. When you reach a state of solitude, you no longer fear being alone. You see it as an opportunity rather than a problem. And in that space, you discover a deeper level of happiness, one that does not depend on constant presence of others. Because you have learned to be present with yourself. And that presence is enough. Chapter 4. Facing yourself without distraction. In everyday life, people surround themselves with constant noise. Phones, conversations, entertainment, and endless activity. These distractions create a sense of comfort because they keep the mind occupied. But beneath that activity, there are thoughts and emotions that often remain unexamined. Being alone removes these distractions. It creates a space where you are left with your own mind. For many people, this is uncomfortable. They begin to notice fears, doubts, regrets, and insecurities that they have been avoiding. This discomfort makes them want to escape quickly. But escaping does not solve anything. It only delays understanding. Facing yourself without distraction is one of the most important steps in becoming truly comfortable alone. Imagine a room that has been closed for a long time. Dust has gathered in every corner. As long as the room stays closed, the moment you open the door and let light in, you see everything clearly. It may look messy at first, but now you have the chance to clean it. Your mind works in the same way. When you allow silence and stillness, you begin to see what is inside. Thoughts that were ignored start appearing. Feelings that were buried come to the surface. A student once kept himself busy every moment of the day. Classes, friends, games, and constant use of his phone. He believed he was enjoying life. But deep inside, he had fears about his future and doubts about his abilities. One day, due to certain circumstances, he had to spend time alone without his usual distractions. At first, he felt restless. He did not know what to do with the silence. His mind started bringing up thoughts he had been avoiding. It felt uncomfortable and even overwhelming. Instead of running back to distractions, he decided to sit with those thoughts. He began writing them down. He asked himself why he felt that way. Slowly, he started understanding his fears. He realized that many of them were based on assumptions rather than reality. As he continued this process, the intensity of those thoughts decreased. They no longer controlled him. This is the power of facing yourself. It allows you to separate reality from fear. It allows you to understand your emotions instead of being controlled by them. Many people spend years they fear what they might discover. But avoiding does not make problems disappear. It only makes them stronger over time. Facing yourself does not mean judging yourself harshly. It means observing with honesty and patience. You acknowledge your weaknesses without hating yourself. You recognize your mistakes without losing your worth. A young woman once struggled with past regrets. She constantly distracted herself to avoid thinking about them. But the feeling never truly left. One day she decided to confront her past. She reflected on her actions and accepted her mistakes. Instead of blaming herself endlessly, she focused on what she could learn. This changed her perspective. Her past stopped feeling like a burden and started becoming a lesson. Facing yourself also helps you discover your strengths. Qualities that you may have ignored become visible. You begin to see your resilience, your creativity, your ability to grow. This builds confidence that does not depend on others. Being alone without distraction is not easy at first. It requires patience, but over time, it becomes a source of clarity. You start understanding what truly matters to you. You stop reacting blindly to situations. You make decisions with awareness. This level of understanding creates inner peace. Because when you know yourself deeply, there is nothing left to fear in silence. You are no longer running away. You are standing with yourself. And that is where true strength begins. Chapter 5. Building inner strength. Life constantly tests a person in different ways. Situations change, people come and go, and circumstances do not always remain stable. In such a world, relying only on external support can make a person feel weak when that support is not available. Inner strength is what allows a person to stand firm, even when everything around them is uncertain. It does not mean that a person never feels pain or fear. It means they do not collapse because of it. When you learn to be enough alone, you begin to develop this strength from within. Many people build their confidence based on how others treat them. If they receive encouragement, they feel strong. If they face criticism or rejection, they feel broken. This kind of strength is temporary because it depends on outside factors. Yet it continues to grow. Its strength comes from its roots. The deeper the roots, the stronger the tree becomes. In the same way, your inner strength comes from your ability to stay grounded within yourself. A young man once faced repeated failures in his studies. Each time he failed, he felt ashamed because he feared what others would think. He started doubting his abilities. He believed he was not capable. After some time, he decided to change his focus. Instead of worrying about others, he began working on himself quietly. He studied with consistency. He accepted his mistakes and learned from them. Even when no one noticed his effort, he continued. Slowly, his confidence started building. Not because people praised him, but because he saw his own progress. When he eventually succeeded, his happiness was different. It was not just about the result. It was about the strength he had developed during the journey. Inner strength also comes from learning how to handle emotions. A person who depends on others for emotional stability often feels lost when they are alone. But when you understand your emotions, you gain control over your reactions. A woman once went through a difficult period in her life. She lost something very important to her. In the beginning, she felt completely broken. She tried to find comfort in others, but nothing seemed enough. One day, she decided to spend time understanding her feelings instead of escaping them. She allowed herself to feel sadness without suppressing it. She reflected on her experience and slowly started healing. Over time, she became stronger, not because the pain disappeared, but because she learned how to carry it without losing herself. This is inner strength. It is quiet. It is not always visible to others, but it is powerful. Building inner strength also means developing self-trust. When you trust yourself, you do not constantly seek reassurance. You believe in your ability to handle situations. This does not mean you never ask for help. It means you are not helpless without it. A person with self-trust makes decisions with confidence. Even if they make mistakes, they know they can learn and improve. This creates a sense of stability. Being enough alone helps you build this trust. Because you spend time understanding your own mind, you learn what you can handle. You learn how you react to, learn how to improve. Inner strength grows with time and experience. It requires patience, consistency, and honesty with yourself. There will be moments when you feel weak. That is a natural part of growth. But each time you face a challenge without losing yourself, your strength increases. Eventually, you reach a point where external situations do not easily shake you. You remain calm in uncertainty. You remain confident in silence. You remain steady. This does not make you distant from others. It makes you secure within yourself. And when you are secure within yourself, you do not depend on the world to hold you together. You stand on your own foundation. Strong, steady, and enough. Chapter 6. Enjoying your own company. Many people are surrounded by others, yet still it comes from a lack of connection with one's own self. Enjoying your own company is a skill that develops with awareness and practice. It is not something that appears suddenly. It grows when you start treating yourself as someone worth spending time with. At first, being alone may feel unusual. There is no conversation, no distraction, no external stimulation. The mind may start searching for something to fill the space. But if you stay in that moment without rushing to escape, you begin to notice a shift. You start observing your thoughts without pressure. You begin to feel a sense of calm that is different from excitement. It is deeper and more stable. A person who enjoys their own company does not feel the need to constantly prove something. They are comfortable being themselves without performance. Imagine a young artist who always shared her work with others. She waited for feedback before feeling satisfied. If people appreciated her work, she felt motivated. If they did not, she felt discouraged. One day she decided to create without sharing. She spent time painting just for herself. At first it felt strange. There was no audience, no reaction. But gradually she started enjoying the process itself. She noticed details she had ignored before. She felt more connected to her creativity. Her happiness was no longer dependent on approval. It came from the act of creating. This is what it means to enjoy your own company. It is not about doing something extraordinary. It is about finding peace in simple moments. Sitting quietly reading a book, taking a walk thinking deeply, or even doing nothing. These moments become meaningful when you are comfortable with yourself. A man once realized that he could not spend even a short time without checking his phone. Silence made him uneasy. He decided to change this habit. He started by spending a few minutes each day without any distraction. At first, those minutes felt long. His mind kept searching for something to do. But over time, he became more relaxed. He started noticing his surroundings more clearly. He felt less dependent on constant stimulation. Eventually, he reached a point where he could spend long periods alone without feeling uncomfortable. He discovered that his own company was not something to escape from. It was something to appreciate. Enjoying your own company also helps you build independence. You do not need others to fill every moment of your life. You can create your own experiences. This independence brings freedom. You can choose when to be with others and when to be alone. You are not driven by fear of missing out. You are guided by what truly feels right for you. It also improves your relationships. When you enjoy your own company, you do not rely on others to entertain you constantly. You bring your own sense of peace into This creates healthier connections. You listen better. You communicate more honestly. You do not feel drained by the absence of attention. A woman once spent years feeling uncomfortable whenever she always needed someone around her. But despite being surrounded by people, she often felt exhausted. She decided to spend some time alone intentionally. She started doing small activities by herself, cooking, reading, and taking walks. At first, it felt unfamiliar, but gradually she began to enjoy these moments. She felt lighter. She felt more in control of her time. When she returned to social life, she no longer felt dependent. She felt balanced. Enjoying your own company does not mean isolating yourself from the world. It means building a relationship with yourself that feels peaceful. It means being able to sit in silence without feeling empty. It means finding joy in your own presence. This kind of happiness is not loud. It is quiet and steady. It does not depend on circumstances. It comes from within, and once you discover it, you realize that you are never truly alone, because you have yourself. And that is enough. Chapter 7: Relationships without dependency. Human beings are naturally drawn to connection. Friendship, love, and companionship are important parts of life. But problems begin when relationships become a source of survival instead of a source of sharing. When a person feels incomplete within themselves, they start looking for someone else to fill that emptiness. They expect others to provide constant attention, reassurance, and emotional stability. This creates dependency. Dependency makes relationships heavy. It places pressure on both individuals. One becomes afraid of losing the other. The other feels responsible for maintaining the emotional state of the first. This is not balance. This is attachment driven by fear. Being enough alone changes the way a person approaches relationships. Instead of entering a connection with, if both cups are full, they can share freely. If one cup is empty, that person will constantly try to take from the other. Over time, this imbalance creates tension. A healthy relationship is not about filling each other's emptiness. It is about supporting each other while standing strong individually. A man once believed that he could not be happy without a partner. He entered relationships quickly and became deeply attached. At the beginning, everything felt intense and exciting. But soon he started feeling insecure. He needed constant reassurance. Small changes in behavior made him anxious. The relationships eventually ended, leaving him more broken each time. After repeated experiences, he decided to spend time alone. He focused on understanding himself. He worked on his habits, his mindset, and his emotional stability. At first, it was difficult. He felt the urge to seek connection again. But he stayed patient. Slowly, he started feeling comfortable on his own. He realized that his happiness did not have to depend on another person. When he entered a relationship again, his approach was different. He did not seek constant validation. He did not lose himself in the process. He shared his life without depending on it. This created a healthier and more stable connection. Relationships without dependency are built on mutual respect and understanding. Both individuals maintain their identity. Both have their own goals and interests. They come together not out of fear, but out of choice. This kind of connection is stronger because it is not forced. A woman once stayed in a friendship where she felt unappreciated. She feared being alone, so she tolerated behavior that hurt her. One day she decided to step away. She spent time alone rebuilding her sense of self. She learned to value her time and energy. When she formed new friendships, she set clear boundaries. She did not accept less than she deserved. Her relationships became healthier because she was no longer dependent. Being independent does not mean being distant or cold. It means being emotionally stable. You can care deeply about others without losing yourself. You can support someone without making them your only source of happiness. When you are enough alone, you do not fear losing people in an unhealthy way. You understand that relationships are important, but they are not your entire identity. This mindset removes pressure. You are not constantly worried about being abandoned. You are not trying to control situations to keep someone in your life. Instead, you focus on building meaningful connections. You appreciate people for who they are, not for what they provide to your sense of worth. This creates freedom in relationships. There is trust without fear. There is care without control. There is closeness without losing individuality. A person who is happy with themselves brings peace into relationships. They do not demand constant attention. They do not create unnecessary conflict from insecurity. They communicate clearly. They respect boundaries. They understand the value of space. This makes their presence comforting rather than overwhelming. Relationships become a part of life, not the foundation of identity. Being enough alone does not remove the need for connection. It transforms the way connection is experienced. It allows love to exist without fear. It allows companionship to grow without pressure. And most importantly, it allows you to remain yourself while being with others. Because you are not looking for someone to complete you. You are already complete. And you are simply sharing that completeness with another person. Chapter 8, Freedom in Self-Acceptance. They compare themselves with others. They chase standards that constantly change. They feel pressure to look, act, and live in a certain way. This constant effort creates exhaustion. The reason behind this struggle is simple. They have not fully accepted themselves. Self-acceptance means recognizing who you are without constant resistance. It means understanding your strengths and your weaknesses without denying either. It does not mean you stop growing. It means you stop hating yourself while you grow. When a person does not accept themselves, they are always in conflict. They feel they are not good enough. They feel they need to prove something all the time. This creates stress and insecurity. Imagine carrying a heavy weight every day. The weight is made of comparison, regret, and unrealistic expectations. Over time, it becomes difficult to move forward. Self-acceptance is like putting that weight down. You feel lighter. You feel free. A young woman once struggled with her appearance. She constantly compared herself to others. No matter what she did, she never felt satisfied. She tried different ways to fit into what she believed was acceptable, but the feeling of not being enough remained. One day she decided to shift her focus. Instead of trying to become someone else, she started taking care of herself as she was. She focused on her health, her comfort, and her confidence. She stopped measuring herself against unrealistic standards. Slowly her mindset changed. She did not become perfect, but she became peaceful. That peace allowed her to grow naturally without pressure. Self-acceptance also means accepting your past. Many people carry guilt or regret for things they cannot change. They replay old situations in their mind. They blame themselves repeatedly. This prevents them from moving forward. A man once made decisions in his life that he later regretted. For years he kept thinking about what he should have done differently. This made him feel stuck. One day he realized that holding on to the past was not changing anything. He decided to accept his mistakes as part of his journey. He focused on learning instead of blaming. This shift allowed him to move forward with clarity. Self-acceptance does not erase mistakes. It transforms them into lessons. It allows you to grow without being trapped by what has already happened. Another important part of self-acceptance is understanding that you cannot be everything for everyone. Some people will like you. Some people will not. No matter what you do, you cannot control every opinion. A person who seeks approval from everyone will always feel, but a person who accepts themselves does not depend on universal approval. They focus on being genuine. A student once tried to fit into every group around him. He changed his behavior depending on who he was with. But this made him feel confused and disconnected. Later, he decided to be consistent with himself. He stopped trying to please everyone. Some people moved away from him, but the ones who stayed appreciated him for who he truly was. He felt more at peace because he was no longer pretending. Self-acceptance also brings confidence. Not the loud kind that seeks attention, but the quiet kind that remains steady. You do not feel the need to constantly prove yourself. You do not feel threatened by others' success. You understand your own path. This creates a sense of freedom. You are no longer controlled by comparison. You are no longer trapped by unrealistic expectations. You move at your own pace. Being enough alone becomes easier when you accept yourself. Because there is no internal conflict. There is no constant pressure to be someone else. You become comfortable in your own presence. A person who accepts themselves can sit in silence without feeling restless. They can face challenges without losing their sense of worth. They can grow without feeling forced. This is true freedom. It is not given by others. It is created within. When you accept yourself fully, you stop chasing a version of life that is not meant for you. You start living in a way that feels real. And in that reality, you find peace. Because you are no longer fighting yourself. You are standing with yourself. And that is where freedom begins. Chapter 9. Purpose beyond approval. When a person learns to be enough alone, they begin to notice something important. Life is no longer about pleasing others or chasing approval. It becomes about discovering what truly matters to them. Many people spend their lives following paths set by others. They choose careers, friends, and lifestyles based on what society expects. They seek validation from family, peers, and the world at large. On the surface, everything may seem successful. But deep inside, they feel disconnected and unfulfilled. This is because they have not discovered their own purpose. Being alone and comfortable with yourself creates the space to ask deeper questions. What do I truly want from life? What gives me meaning? What makes me feel alive? Purpose that comes from within is. He had status and recognition, but he felt empty inside. He was constantly stressed and dissatisfied. After some reflection, he realized that he had been pursuing what others expected of him, not what he truly wanted. He left his job and spent time exploring his own interests. He discovered a passion for helping others through teaching and mentorship. Building a life around that purpose was not easy. It required courage and patience, but it brought a sense of fulfillment that no external validation ever had. Purpose beyond approval allows you to live authentically. You stop making choices based on fear of judgment. You start making choices based on what resonates with your inner self. A woman once pursued a career in law because it was prestigious. She felt pressure from family and peers to succeed in that field. Although she was skilled, she never felt truly happy. She often wondered if this was all life had to offer. After spending time alone reflecting on her interests, she realized her passion was in writing and creative expression. She changed her path. Even though it was uncertain and required effort, she felt alive for the first time. Living with purpose beyond approval brings a different kind of confidence. You do not need constant praise to feel motivated. You do not need recognition to feel successful. You do not depend on others' opinions to define your actions. Your energy is directed toward meaningful goals. Your decisions reflect your values. Your actions become. This also strengthens your inner self. When your purpose is aligned with your identity, you become resilient. Challenges become lessons instead of threats. Failures become opportunities to improve instead of reasons to doubt yourself. Being enough alone allows you to distinguish between purpose and expectation. It gives you clarity to recognize what you truly want. It helps you identify which goals are meaningful and which are imposed. Living with your own purpose does not mean isolating yourself from others. It means contributing to the world in a way that feels true to you. It means forming relationships and pursuing paths that support your growth rather than dictate it. The freedom of acting in alignment with your purpose brings joy that is independent of external approval, even if others do not understand or appreciate your choices. You remain grounded because your actions are consistent with your inner self. This kind of purpose creates long-term fulfillment. It is not dependent on trends, praise, or recognition. It is steady because it is rooted in your own identity. When you live with purpose beyond approval, you no longer seek validation to feel complete. You already feel complete. You do not follow life to be noticed. You follow it to be true. And that truth becomes your most powerful guide. Chapter 10. Living with yourself as your best companion. No matter how many people surround you or how busy your life becomes, they are the companions you cannot escape. Many people spend their lives trying to fill this space with others. They seek attention, approval, and connection to avoid sitting with themselves. But when external presence disappears, they feel restless or incomplete. Learning to live with yourself as your best companion changes everything. It begins with self-awareness. You observe your thoughts without judgment. You notice your emotions without trying to suppress them. You acknowledge your past experiences without letting them control your present. A young woman once realized that she could not enjoy solitude. Even short periods alone made her anxious. She constantly sought friends, messages, and social interaction to feel comfortable. Over time, she decided to approach her own presence differently. She started spending quiet time reflecting, writing, and observing her thoughts. At first it felt strange and even uncomfortable, but gradually she began enjoying her own company. She laughed at her own ideas, reflected on her feelings, and explored her dreams. She discovered that her own presence could be nurturing and comforting. She did not need constant external validation to feel complete. Living with yourself as your companion also means treating yourself with kindness. You do not harshly criticize mistakes or dwell on regrets. You offer patience, understanding, and encouragement. You celebrate small victories and forgive yourself for shortcomings. This practice strengthens emotional resilience. You are less shaken by criticism, rejection, or setbacks, because you are already anchored within yourself. A man once faced a period of significant loss in his life. Friends and family offered support, but he still felt alone. Instead of relying solely on them, he spent time understanding his emotions. He reflected on the lessons the situation offered and allowed himself to heal gradually. Through this process, he realized that his own companionship was steady and reliable. It did not depend on anyone else's presence or approval. He had learned to stand with himself, which gave him inner freedom. Living as your own companion also enhances relationships. When you do not seek others to fill your emptiness, you can give love and support without dependency. You can listen without needing validation. You can connect without fear or insecurity. This creates balanced, healthy connections. You bring peace rather than neediness into interactions. You share rather than cling. You grow together rather than depend on each other for happiness. Being your own companion does not mean rejecting the world. It means you approach it from a place of completeness rather than fear. You choose company because you enjoy it, not because you require it. You share moments because you are already whole. It also brings clarity in decision-making. You can make choices aligned with your values. You are less influenced by societal pressure or fleeting opinions. Your actions are guided by what feels authentic rather than what seems necessary to impress others. Living with yourself as your best companion is a lifelong practice. It requires patience, reflection, and self-love. There will be moments of doubt or loneliness. But each time you return to yourself, you reinforce your inner foundation. Over time, being alone becomes a source of strength, creativity, and joy. You realize that happiness does not need to be borrowed from others. It is already inside you. When you reach this state, even silence feels rich. Even solitude feels fulfilling. Even challenges feel manageable. Because your most important relationship, your relationship with yourself, is strong, nurturing, and unwavering. You do not need to prove your worth. You do not need to seek constant approval. You do not need to fear being alone. You are already enough. And that realization transforms every aspect of life. It creates peace that cannot be shaken. It creates freedom that cannot be taken away. It creates joy that flows from the source within you. Because you have learned to live with yourself as your best companion. And that is the foundation for a life of true happiness, resilience, and fulfillment. Chapter 11. Embracing growth while being enough. Being enough alone does not mean stopping growth or avoiding challenges. It means pursuing growth from a place of self-respect rather than self-doubt. It means understanding that your value is not tied to achievements, outcomes, or recognition. Many people mistakenly believe that if they are happy with themselves, they no longer need to improve. This is not true. Growth is a natural part of life. It is the way we explore our potential, deepen understanding, and enrich our experiences. The difference is motivation. A person who depends on validation grows to gain praise, recognition, or approval. Their efforts are often stressful and fleeting because the satisfaction comes from outside. A person who is enough alone grows to understand themselves, fulfill their purpose, and expand their capacity for life. Their satisfaction is internal and enduring. Imagine a young woman learning a new skill. If she relies on applause, she may give up when no one notices her progress. But if she focuses on her own learning, each small improvement becomes meaningful. Even when no one is watching, she experiences fulfillment. Embracing growth while being enough also means accepting failure as part of the process. Failures do not diminish your value. They are lessons, not judgments on your worth. When you are grounded in yourself, mistakes are easier to face, reflect on, and learn from. A young man once attempted a challenging project. He feared failure and the judgment of others. Initially, he avoided risks and relied on safe paths. After learning to be content with himself, he embraced challenges, understanding that even if the outcome was imperfect, his effort and courage were valuable. He found satisfaction in the process, not just the result. This mindset transforms how you experience life. Challenges are no longer threats to your self-worth. They are opportunities to explore your resilience, creativity, and patience. You take responsibility for your growth without feeling pressured to prove anything to anyone. Being enough alone also allows you to maintain balance. You pursue improvement without harsh self-criticism. You celebrate progress instead of comparing yourself to others. You recognize that growth is a journey, not a competition. A woman once struggled with her career advancement. She compared herself to peers and felt inadequate. After spending time building her relationship with herself, she shifted focus. She pursued learning and skill development for personal fulfillment, not comparison. Gradually, she gained confidence, competence, and a sense of peace. Her growth became joyful rather than stressful. Being enough alone gives you the freedom to grow at your own pace. You are guided by your curiosity, interests, and values, not by fear or societal pressure. You can explore new ideas, hobbies, and passions without needing validation. Ultimately, embracing growth while being enough creates a powerful balance. You are self-sufficient, yet open to development. You are content, yet ambitious. You are grounded, yet flexible. Life becomes a space of learning and exploration, not a battlefield for approval. When you master this balance, you realize that being enough alone is not the end of growth. It is the foundation from which true growth flourishes. You do not need external recognition to improve. You do not need comparison to measure progress. You grow because you respect and value yourself. And that is how life transforms. From a pursuit of approval to a journey of self-discovery, fulfillment, and true freedom. When you learn to be enough alone, happiness begins to shift from external sources to the small, ordinary moments of life. Joy is no longer dependent on big achievements, constant activity, or the presence of others. Instead, it emerges quietly from the appreciation of the present. Many people overlook the simplicity of life. They rush through days chasing goals, validation, and distractions. They forget to pause, breathe, and notice the world around them. Being alone allows you to slow down. It creates space to observe, reflect, and savor the little things that often go unnoticed. Imagine walking through a park. The sun is soft, the air fresh, and the world is still waking. A person who has learned to enjoy their own company notices the details, the rustle of leaves, the chirping of birds, the feel of the wind on their skin. These small experiences become sources of quiet happiness. A young woman once spent years filling her life with social engagements. She believed constant interaction was the only way to feel alive. But despite being busy, she often felt restless and disconnected. One weekend, she decided to spend a day alone. No phone, no plans, just time with herself. She cooked a meal, took a long walk, read a book, and sat quietly in her room reflecting. By the end of the day, she realized she had experienced a level of peace and joy she had not felt in years. This is the power of finding joy in simple moments. It is not loud or dramatic. It does not require anyone else's approval. It comes from a deep appreciation for being alive. Another example is a man who discovered happiness in small acts of creativity. He spent his evenings painting, writing, and experimenting with music. Initially, he felt the need to share his work online for validation, but over time, he created purely for himself. The joy he found in the process was immediate, genuine, and lasting. Simple moments can include enjoying a cup of tea in silence, watching the sunset without distraction, observing nature during a walk, listening to music and feeling its emotions, reflecting on thoughts, memories, and dreams. These experiences cultivate mindfulness. They allow you to live fully in the present, instead of constantly worrying about the past or future. They reinforce the idea that your happiness does not depend on external factors. When a person finds joy in simple moments, life becomes richer. They do not need extravagant events or constant validation. They can experience satisfaction in the everyday. This mindset also strengthens emotional resilience. Challenges, setbacks, and changes feel less threatening when your happiness is rooted within. You have learned that joy is available to you anytime, even in quiet, ordinary moments. Being enough not because of what you achieve or what others think of you, but because you are present, aware, and appreciative. Eventually, this practice transforms your outlook on life. You start noticing beauty in the mundane. You smile at small victories. You feel gratitude for ordinary experiences. You learn to love life for what it is, rather than constantly wishing it were different. This is a profound form of freedom and contentment. When you can find joy in simple moments, you realize that happiness is not something to chase. It is always available. It has been there inside you all along, and in that realization, you are truly enough. You are complete. You are whole. Because happiness, like self-worth, is not given by others. It grows quietly within, nurtured by your own presence, attention, and appreciation. Conclusion. From the earliest chapters of life, people are taught to seek validation, approval, and recognition from others, believing that these external markers define their worth. Yet true fulfillment does not come from applause, praise, or social acknowledgement. It begins with the quiet understanding that your existence itself is valuable, complete, and meaningful. Being alone provides the opportunity to face your own thoughts, emotions, and fears without distraction. It allows you to observe yourself honestly, recognize your strengths, and accept your weaknesses. Solitude transforms loneliness into clarity, fear into courage, and restlessness into peace. When you learn to sit with yourself, reflect, and enjoy your own company, you create a foundation of inner strength that is steady and unshakable, capable of withstanding life's uncertainties and challenges. Self-acceptance is at the heart of this journey. It frees you from comparison, unrealistic expectations, and the constant pressure to prove yourself. By embracing who you are, including your flaws and past mistakes, you gain the freedom to grow authentically, pursue your purpose, and experience joy in the simplest moments. Happiness becomes a product of presence rather than circumstance, a natural result of self-respect rather than external validation. Being enough alone also transforms relationships. You enter connections from a place of completeness, not dependency. You share love and support without losing your identity, communicate honestly without fear, and create balanced relationships that flourish on mutual respect rather than neediness. Emotional independence enhances not only your peace, but the quality of the bonds you form. Ultimately, this journey teaches a profound truth. Your worth does not require confirmation from anyone else. You are already whole. You are capable of facing challenges, pursuing growth, and experiencing happiness entirely on your own. Solitude becomes a source of empowerment, self-reflection, a tool for clarity, and self-acceptance, a gateway to freedom. When you truly embrace yourself, enjoy your own company, and nurture your inner life, you discover that life's richness has been within you all along. You no longer need to chase validation, recognition, or constant approval. You stand firm, grounded, and peaceful because your value does not fluctuate with circumstances. It is inherent, enduring, and unwavering. You are enough. You are complete. You are capable. And in this truth lies the deepest, most liberating joy of all the end.
Kindly subscribe to my channel.